Hello and welcome to another edition of PaynePoints of Interest, where we talk about and answer questions relating to all things business. This week, we have a special guest, David Saphir. He's an expert in cash flow management systems and has worked with many businesses all over the world in creating healthy cash flow systems. David holds a BA from SUNY Buffalo with a focus in international business and an MBA from the Thunderbird School of International Management in Phoenix, Arizona. He loves music, musical theater, and performing on stage. He's originally from New York and currently lives with his wife and 4 daughters in Salt Lake City. So stay tuned for all the topics we have on cash flow with David Saphir. I'm Sarah Harbuck, your host, and with me is Michael Payne. And again, we've got a special guest, David Saphir. He is talking about cash flow this week, and we're very glad to have him again. Thanks so much, David.
I'm very glad to be here again, Sarah.
Thank you. Well, we talked a little bit yesterday kind of about the definition of cash flow and why it's so important to a business. Why don't you kind of go into a little bit more detail about how cash flow is calculated? I know you talked about that a little bit yesterday, but all the things that kind of affect cash flow. I know we talked about accounts receivable, accounts payable, and that stuff just hurts my head. So maybe you, as an expert, have a easy definition for someone like me who is so not an accounting person. How all these things categorize.
All right, I'll give you a really easy definition. You ready?
Yes.
You take a period of time, and you calculate what your beginning bank balance is, and your ending bank balance, and you subtract
the difference.
You find out the difference. So if your ending bank balance is $100 more, then you had $100 of positive cash flow. If it was $50 less, then you had $50 of negative cash flow.
Okay. Well,
and then you say over a period of a day, a week, a month, or a year. That's the basics of what cash flow is.
That's perfect. I can visualize that in my mind. For some reason, I was making it so much more complicated than it is.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. It sounds complicated, but it boils down to some real basics.
So whenever you're dealing, in your line of work, and you were talking to organizations or businesses, and you're helping them get their cash flow on track, what's kind of the first step you take in order to help them achieve a better and healthier sort of cash flow system?
That's a great question. The first step I take with them is to look at their bookkeeping and make sure that it's accurate and up to date. Those are two separate things. Up to date means it's been done within a few days. Accurate means there's no major mistakes. And if that's not happening, we fix the books.
Okay. So, and what would be what do you see as the most common bookkeeping issues?
So the first one is people fall behind, and a week's not a big deal. A month's not that big of a deal. But when you're 4, 5, 6 months behind, you have no idea of how much money is really in your bank account, how much is owed, and how much you have to pay. So that's number one. Number two is they don't do their bookkeeping designed for their specific business. It's generic.
Okay.
And so I'll take, for example, that somebody who is in a towing business, if they don't have things set up like how much you get for a basic tow and then for storage fees, and it's all just junked together, you can't really predict the cash flow from either one of those buckets.
Right. So you're talking about on that side of it, on the receivable side, you're talking about your invoices with line items that are properly categorized to not just products, but to the appropriate accounting buckets in which they belong. Everything just goes into sales.
It is. And, one of the fallacies people have is that sales equals cash, and it's just not true. Sometimes you have to wait for 60 days to get paid, and you need to provide more cash just to make the sales. And I'll go back to that, but here's the bigger issue. sometimes a small part of the business can produce the majority of the cash. And if you don't divide up those revenue buckets and understand the expenses associated, you'll never understand where your cash is really coming from.
So is there a like a more simplified way a business who is wanting to find out, exactly where their cash is coming from, and they've got several different columns that they could fill it in? Is there anything easier than just what's out there typically, or is it really just you got to do the work?
Well, you know what? The work is in setting up your chart of accounts and your bookkeeping. And once you've done that, it's just putting it into the right bucket.
Gotcha.
And working with your bookkeeper.
Do you? So you obviously would recommend that most small businesses hire someone to help them with this, because I know I kind of sometimes would fail in this area. Now I'm a type A personality, very, try to stay on top of it. But, sometimes life happens and you get behind, like you're saying, and sometimes a week or a month isn't that big of a deal. But, I don't have the greatest memory unless I'm making lists constantly. So if I don't do it when it happens, it may not get recorded.
Yeah. If you can afford two things. Number one, to get somebody good to help you set up your chart of accounts who's used to doing this and specializing it for a business. That you want a key professional, and whether it's a business consultant, not even necessarily a CPA. Yeah. But then the second thing is somebody who's just a good heads down bookkeeper who's going to take your information, record it, and make sure you've got reports coming back to you. If you can afford to do that, so every week you've got those reports, you're going to be way ahead on the cash flow game. Okay. I
had a question and it just totally flew out of my head. Mike, you want to take it away?
This is, I've kind of taken those steps. I am the type of person who does his own. For the longest time, I did my own bookkeeping. I fortunately have that that person who can help me set up my books and who can probably work with me now to really revamp my chart of accounts for 2020 because I've started delving into other areas of business. It's not all just one now. So the question I have is, I use I'm not as familiar with QuickBooks. I use Wave. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Wave as the accounting system online. It's all cloud-based. And they do have a simple cash flow graph that really is kind of monitoring the accounts that you mark as bank accounts. So whatever you're tracking as a bank, and it does that entire simple process you said, where it shows, the money going in and the money coming out. But to me, that seems very, very high level. And as a detail-oriented person, I start to obsess over it and put put that table together where it is my bank account, which is my primary, with all the transactions I expect during the course of the month and when they're going to hit, and then update that through the month with when they actually hit, and how if I'm able to, if I want to pay off this card over here, I can change that date to a week prior and see how it affects the balance of the bank account at any given time. Is that a level you recommend people going to, or is that just going too far?
Well, I recommend it if they need it. There's a basic business philosophy I have, which is you do as little as possible, but as much as you need in certain areas of your business.
I like that.
Well, thanks. Good.
I think that's going on to a social media graphic now, David.
I think so.
Okay, good. And this is one of those cases. The big challenge for some people, if they don't want to do it, you can set it up and it'll never get done. It'll be worthless. But for you, there's a software package that I've worked with. It's called Dry Run, that can do that type of stuff for you, which is granular, that you could do it by month, by day, or by week, depending on what you need. Some businesses in real cash flow crunches, they're projecting cash flow every single day. What's going to be in the bank account tomorrow? That's not what it sounds like you do. But these generally Wave is probably not what I would call cash flow management. It's called a cash projection, which just is basically taking your historic and projecting it out. But we all know business is changing day to day, and it's not as predictable as the past would dictate.
If that's not the truth, I don't know what is. Thanks, David. I really appreciate your insights today on all the little nuances of cash flow. I think that's going to be it for today. So thanks for joining us. We will talk with you a little bit more tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Sarah.
That's going to be all from us today. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, if you have any questions or comments or things you'd like to add to today's topic, or if you'd like to be a guest speaker, you can find us at our website, PaynePoints.com, Facebook and LinkedIn at PaynePoints, Instagram at Payne.points, and Twitter at PointsPayne. You can now call or text us at 855-729-6378, which is 855-PAYNE-POINT, PAYNEPT. Today's guest and this week's guest, David Safir. You can find his information on LinkedIn at dsafir, or you can go to his website, davidsafir.com, or email him at david@davidsafir.com. We hope everyone had a great day, and now let's get to work.